Great characters, the Mandelas, aren't they? Well, we're joined now by royal biographer Tom Bower. Tom, great to see you. You've got this blockbuster book. I've been revelling in your extracts. Very juicy stuff. First of all, your reaction, Prince Harry popping up at the United Nations, of all places, on Nelson Mandela Day, preaching away about climate change again, having apparently got there by private jet again, preaching about politics in America, which no royal's supposed to ever do, saying the Constitution's being wound back and so on, whining about sort of the terrible, painful year he's had and all the rest of it. What do you make of this? Why does he do this? What does he think he achieves by it?
Well, and also saying all that work to do in Africa, which he dedicated his life to, but prefers now to paddle in the Pacific in Santa Monica.
Right.
Or Monsignor. Well, he does it because he needs a profile. That's the only way they can get money, by showing the profile. And for Netflix, everything is built around the future documentary series to promote the Sussexes.
When you're as rankly hypocritical as Harry is, you know, preaching about climate change, using private jets all the time, when he doesn't have to, is there not a point where the United Nations should avoid using people like him on a Mandela Day, for example?
Well, it was pretty empty, the auditorium, wasn't it?
It was quite empty.
And the United Nations is quite famous for being a centre of hot air. So I think it's the right place on this day. But what was unbelievable was, I mean, Mandela's legacy was really betrayed by the South Africans. And, you know, South Africa could have been a completely different country if Mandela had been able to live for a few more years.
Yeah.
And I just thought that he skitted over all the problems of Africa and the self-inflicted problems while he just lives in luxury in Montecito.
And he made reference to Mandela 20 times in this brief speech, clearly trying to draw some kind of parallel between his own struggle and long walk to freedom as this great, inspiring historical figure who literally spent 3 decades nearly in a tiny cell.
Yeah. Well, you know, Piers, you're the first person to say how limited Prince Harry is, unfortunately, and how his wife trades off her husband's fame and fortune, or not so great fortune now. I mean, this is the problem, but we're still interested because, after all, he's a great character in our modern day.
Well, you can't ignore them if they keep popping up doing stuff like this. That's the thing. We're kind of in a mutually abusive, toxic relationship, aren't we? The media and Harry and Meghan, because they keep doing stuff wanting attention. Then they get quite adverse reaction most of the time. Then they react really badly to the reaction. And so it goes on. Well,
what it really boils down to is the threat they offer. If their threat was punctured, which I hope my book will do, and if their importance is diminished, which I hope my book will do, show what really...
Any lawsuits yet?
Normally no, too early.
It won't be long. It won't be long. Stay there, Tom. I'm going to come back and talk about your book after the break, where Princessy and woke and Harry must be nuts were apparently the reactions from Harry's friends after their first meeting with Meghan Markle, and those were the ones we can repeat for some of the revelations in Tom's explosive new book, Revenge. We'll talk about that after the break. Welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Tom Bower is a man every public figure fears when he puts his literary talons into them. This time it's Harry and Meghan. Some great revelations in here. Let's just go through some of them. I mean, the one that really stuck out to me, because I'd heard this from actually some of the people that you were talking about, is when Meghan Markle goes to meet Harry's friends for the first time. And they're all his old mates from the royal days. They've all been to Eton, most of them, and so on. And they have a kind of certain banter, which Harry used to thoroughly enjoy, pretty sexist and misogynist and so on and so on. And they're spraying around all their normal jokes, and Meghan is picking them up on every single one, and it's driving them nuts.
Yeah. Well, this is at Sandringham, a weekend shooting party, which was quite normal for Harry, and he just thought they'd all get on together, but in fact the opposite. I mean, Meghan is someone who doesn't hold herself back from complaining about people's way of manner, their way they talk, the way they behave, and all the rest of it. She has a narrative, and she's a very domineering woman, and so she asserted herself. And what was amusing was, on the way home from Sandringham, they're all texting each other, "Oh, my God, what a nutter. How on earth can he stay with her?" And the same then happened when they went to Tommy Inskip's wedding in Jamaica, which was a great friend of Harry's, who in the end was banned from the dinner after their wedding.
Yeah, well, I know at least 3 of the very good friends were apparently...
were banned, all by Meghan.
And then they saw all these celebrities filing it.
Exactly.
Who'd known her about 3 minutes.
Yeah, if that. And Meghan was really, she controls everything. So it was a great cameo.
Tell me about the Queen. The Queen, apparently, you report, didn't want Meghan at Philip's funeral. Why?
Well, she didn't want to be the attention diverted from Philip. If Meghan had been there, she would have got all the attention. I mean, the Harry walk up the hill with William that just showed how the media was focused on the reconciliation and everything after Oprah. So when she said to one of her aides, "Thank goodness Meghan isn't coming," she meant it with the heartfelt.
Was it the Queen that kicked them off the balcony at the Jubilee?
Well, I think it was the Queen, but also I'm sure Charles and William had a big say in that. They weren't going to allow Netflix to dominate their big celebration.
When I read quite a few of the anecdotes in the extracts, there's a lot of diva-like behaviour from Meghan Markle, very controlling about her image when she does a Vogue shoot, for example, all over it, exactly how she wants it to be, Vanity Fair, all these things. There's a constant kind of feeling that she wants to be completely on top of everything, and anyone who gets in her way gets trashed.
Well, she thinks she wants to be the great Hollywood celebrity, the star, like Meryl Streep or something like that. She imagines she should do the same. The problem is she gets undone on each occasion. On Vanity Fair, she doesn't get at all what she wants. On Vogue, she gets much more than can be expected. But of course, then the palace react because she's behaved appallingly by not telling the palace what she's going to do. And I think the most interesting story is the Reitman story. Reitman's is like a Marks and Spencer's in Canada. And I got the most enormously exciting story from the people involved in the shoot for the advert, 80-strong cast and crew, who tell this story about a woman who is, after all, only paid $15,000 a day, peanuts for a star, to advertise these very cheap clothes, $100 a pair of clothes. And she behaves appallingly. And they all loathe her at the end. And she walks off in the end with a pair of shoes they thought they'd lent to her.
When you got to the end of the book, did you have any sympathy for Meghan Markle? Did you buy into her thing that she had no idea what she's really getting into?
Oh, on the contrary, I think she's a very scheming, very clever woman. No, I think the surprising thing at the end of the book, I realised how successful she'd been. Here was a woman who was nothing. I mean, born, broken family, the whole thing, an unknown actress, all the rest of it, becomes a global star, which is what she wanted. When she was about 9 or 10, she said to her father, "I want to be famous, I want to walk down the red carpet." And she has now done that. And she's calculated that she could be a great success. And by marrying Harry, she did it. And so
Are they in trouble now, though? Is the Sussex brand on the downward slope? A lot of American friends of mine are completely done with them, which they weren't even a year ago.
Sure. And this book may hasten the downward trend, for which I wouldn't be sad at all, because they pose a real threat to the royal family.
Well, that's what I've felt from the reason I've been so exercised about them is I think they are destroying a lot of the magic of the monarchy. They're calling the royals a bunch of callous racists and so on without producing any hard evidence to support any of these claims.
On the contrary.
And it's incredibly damaging.
Actually telling untruths.
Yeah.
And I think that was terrible. That's really why I wrote the book, because I just thought this woman is really doing something quite dreadful to Britain. And Harry has fallen in love with her in a ludicrous way and has gone along as her accomplice.
What about Thomas Markle in all this? He's had a big stroke. I'm told he can't even talk at the moment. He's not heard a word from his daughter. He brought her up for years on his own. Wasn't at the wedding for reasons we all know, but what's your sense about him?
Well, I went down to Mexico and spent 2 days with him. And of course, you can't have anything other than sympathy for a man who was terribly traduced by his daughter and quite puzzled. And what the book tells is how that descent into acrimony happened, which I don't think has been told before.
I mean, the genesis is these paparazzi pictures which he colluded
No, the
with.
genesis is long before Piers.
Is it?
Oh, much longer. When she's in Canada, she's already breaking off from him.
Oh, you mean between... Yeah,
between him and...
I meant actually probably between Harry and Meghan as a soon-to-be married couple. It seemed to me it all blew up because Harry has this pathological hatred of paparazzi.
No, why did Harry never go to meet Thomas?
Why is that?
Well, I think because Meghan didn't want him to meet a fat old man. I mean, Meghan was very worried. That's why she brought her mother across the wedding just 2 days before the ceremony.
What do we know about her mum? Her mum's a mysterious figure.
Very mysterious. The book tells it all. I mean, the mother really was a very odd woman, disappeared for 10 years, effectively, during her childhood. That's why Thomas had to bring her up. And in the end, what Thomas says is that it was Doria who really engineered the split between himself and Meghan, because she wanted the fame and the glory.
Extraordinary situation where you have Meghan completely split from all her family on both sides apart from the mother, and Harry now pretty much split from all his family. The two of them living in this weird place in California, this big house, and pretending or behaving like a renegade royal family.
Well, there's that. I mean, they're the royals of Montecito. But what is interesting is that right at the beginning, Samantha Markle, Thomas's daughter, warned everybody. She said, she's breaking our family and she'll break the royal family too. We all laughed at her.
And she is.
And it was true.
Yeah. It's a fascinating book, Revenge by Tom Bauer, Meghan, Harry, and the War Between the Windsors. It's going to be a bestseller, isn't it, Tom?
It is already, Piers.
Selling hotter than the weather right now. Good to see you. Thank you very much.